In this video, I'll look at the controls in the Anibot rig. I've opened up the TV03 Rig Intro Maya ASCII. And there's the Anibot. He's got his main control around the middle, and the eye controls in the upper right. To start out in moving him around the scene, we can grab the main control and pull it around, pressing W for move or E for rotate, and rotating the main control to move the entire character as a static mesh. We'll use this in our blocking, positioning him in the right place first, and then animating the parts. As you can see in the selection on the main control, there's attributes that have been added beyond move, rotate, and scale. I'll pull down the display layers a bit to show these better. We've got major body controls here, and I'll zoom in to show them as well. To animate these, click and drag on the number and the name. As an example, to rotate him on the X-axis within that controller, I'll select both of those and click and drag with the mouse wheel in the scene. This rotates him back and forward within that control, so he can lean forward to look at something or pull back in surprise. There's similar controls for Y and Z rotation, and also a roll control, which is frozen for the overall but has X, Y, and Z components. As an example, I'll roll him on the X-axis. He's going to lean forward in surprise, rolling. The difference here is one is rotation and one is roll, and they have two different centers depending on the motion you need. We'll also see a squash and stretch, SQST. I'll click and drag and scale him up and down. He might scale a little bit in surprise, or flatten out a little bit to show that he's angry. There's also a bias in here, and the bias allows us to push one way or another in terms of squash and stretch. I'll pan over, and there's the eye controls. Once we've got the Anibot in the right place and leaning in the right way to look at something, or be angry, or be excited, we want to look at the eye and mouth shapes. To start, I'll pick the eye, and I'll zoom back so we can see this. On the eye, you can see that the transform is frozen. It's locked and actually hidden over here in the channel box. If I press W for move, for example, we can see the transform is completely grayed out. What I'll do to affect the eye then is to select and click and drag, picking both parts of one of these controls and dragging with the mouse wheel in the view. As an example, if he's going to lean forward a little bit to look at something, his eye might come out just a bit. I'll pick the eye in out control and pull that eye out just a touch. We don't want to take it too far out because it's very easy to have the eye stick out of the body. But a little bit of motion is kind of nice if he's going to squint in at something. There's a twist as an example, and with the twist we can rotate the fan. He may lean forward to focus and that fan will twist slightly. We want to use these for general subtle control in the eye. We've also got a left and right and up and down, within there making the eye look back and forth. Finally, there are eyelid controls. Our eyelids are very expressive, and being able to drag these lids up and down using this control is essential. He might go wide-eyed, and I'll pick the upper and lower lid and bring them in and out. There's a bow and a rotation. I'll bow them out, and his eye is wide with surprise. Then in the next motion, he might look down and go half-lidded, looking down from under that eyelid to squint at you in the animation. We can play with the controls and combine them to get whatever look we need. Then we'll start to look at his eyebrow and mouth. I'll pick the upper brow, and we can see that the controls are somewhat limited, but they're still very useful in that we can pick these controls and drag back and forth. I'll pull this brow up and down as an example. I need to give it a considerable amount of latitude to really start to affect that. Alternately, I can twist it. I'll pick brow twist and twist that upper brow. We can pull it around as we need, depending on what we're after. His mouth is equally as important. Initially, it starts out as a flat line, a neutral expression. But occasionally, he might not be terribly happy, and we'll pull this mouth back and forth. I've also got corner control, where I can pull it up and down and move this mouth around. I can open his mouth as needed. We want to be careful not to go too far, as we can make the mesh fold on itself if we pull too much. But a little bit of pull might be kind of nice. He goes just a little bit open mouth if we need. What we can also do is come and put in a number and key it that way. With all of these attributes, I'll go in and go to the frame I want. Then right-click on that attribute and choose Set Key. As an example, I'll say that at frame 1 his mouth starts out partially open. Right-clicking, and I'll choose Key Selected. Then I'll move over, let's say to frame 18, and close up that mouth, bringing it back to 0 and right-clicking and keying it again. Now over those 18 frames, his mouth will go from open and down. He's maybe perplexed. His mouth is agape and he's staring at something, to closed up and ready for the next pose. We can combine these. Once that mouth is animated open, we'll see the different controls come into play, the up, down, and left and right. We'll also see the swing control and the corner controls be activated. As I pull these around, we can see those corners in action. This will give us expression, not just symmetric, but side to side. What we want to do is use these controls to avoid twinning, or symmetry across it. We can use these controls in concert, working first with the overall body, and then thinking about the eye. Where is he looking, and what is his emotion? And finally accent this with the mouth, as we tend to do a lot with our mouths beyond talk. We can use the brow to accent the emotion, arcing up high for surprise or down in a V for anger or frustration. Remember, the control is off on the side, and we need to put them in and overlap the motion, making sure that the emotions change and are visible and subtle as part of our animation.